Okay, so the problem last time that Rozier mentioned was he didn't know who was speaking, because I imagine the other groups all used their video feed, which is something we didn't do because all of you are shy. So in this case, we're going to simply announce who we are, who's here. Like, I am Zach Waters. And Lucas, go.
I am Lucas.
Elijah.
Echo Elijah Soom.
Celestina.
Selena.
And Alexis. There you go. That covers all our bases. Now I do have some stuff I thought. Oh yeah. So my biggest concern about the book was the ending, but I want to say that's the last part of this discussion. Each one have a beginning part of the book, where we talk about the city.
What do we all think about this conversation in general? Did anybody read the first book? I didn't.
There's a first book? What do you mean the first? Oh, you mean the first chapter?
Yeah, they were divided into books
Yeah,
and
I did read all the chapters, but I did that because on his online, when he said read chapter 2, then read chapter 6, I thought that meant read up to chapter 2, then read up to chapter 6. So I ended up reading the whole book.
So what's the context of this discussion, if you wouldn't mind informing everybody?
It's like a party at some dude's house. It's really nothing special.
Nothing special.
Honestly, the conversation itself is fake as crap to me.
Yeah, Socrates was basically on his way to go someplace, and then he was forced to this guy's house.
Yeah, it's really. We made no sense. Like, I'll go over there, and then he's there for like 4 hours talking.
And you said that the conversation's fake. Like, what do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, I meant like it's clearly this never happened.
Yeah, utopia, right?
No, I meant like no, like this conversation did not happen. It's more. It was clearly written by what's his face?
Yes.
To I guess showcase the intelligence of Socrates and push on their philosophy.
Because everyone here knows, like, you know, Plato and Socrates is relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is their relationship besides like?
Socrates was Plato's teacher.
Yeah.
And
I thought you meant like maybe they were banging each other.
As Lucas could tell you, who knows? Greek culture is interesting. Anyways. But, like, notice how Plato uses, like, Socrates as, like, the mouthpiece. Like...
Oh, yeah. Clearly. The whole...
Socrates, in his time, being alive, he never wrote anything. So, these writings, like, you know, Plato, Astrophanes, like... This is, like, all we have to know of what Socrates possibly stood for.
Really? This is the only book for him?
No, there's, I think, Apology. It also has Socrates' trial. There's other Greek philosophers that wrote about him. I think there was 2 other ones, but...
Let me open my notebook.
The reason why I'm bringing it up is, to me, this is interesting, like advice, because, you know, obviously we're thinking like this was like what Socrates believed, but really, is it?
Yeah, I kind of figured it was Plato.
Yeah.
Like just using him as an instrument to talk.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
I had a more descriptive notes on the city because I'd like to compare our modern day cities to his city.
Okay.
What the difference was. I mean, besides the obvious classism in his city, I don't.
Classism.
Well, that's what he did. I mean, he was like, "You're a guardian, and you're a leader, and you're some smuck who makes wheat."
I don't think he used the word schmuck. Simpleton would probably be like more. Like, the one thing about, like, the Republic is, like, it's a very simplistic society, very, like, lofty, idealistic.
I beg to differ that it's not simple. I think it's overly complex to achieve something very simplistic. Like, think about it, where they were like, and then you got to make sure that they believe that in that they have medals in themselves, so that they can't change their positions. All the children have to believe that they don't know who their father is, and the father isn't supposed to know who their child is. and they're only supposed to have sex at this time of year after a certain celebration. It seems like this overly complex thing that I don't think will work.
You define complexity as like having it concrete.
No, I mean, like, okay, so what? How complex is our society nowadays, by comparison?
American society.
Let me. His seems like our rules are as long as you don't kill each other, as long as you don't smoke weed or pot or crystal meth, then you're pretty much fine. And you
No.
pay taxes. Taxes, you don't kill anyone, you don't do drugs. Those are,
No, that's completely false. American society is a lot more complex than that. There's a lot of taboos and like social normities.
well, I don't know.
In the Republic, it doesn't seem like a lot of that is present, like a lot of like the preconceptions about like who you are. It's just more or less we're all in this city together. We all have a simplistic job to do.
So you're saying, Zach, that in both cases, or in one of the two cases, the general rule of follow the law is different?
Yeah, I think the thing is, he had laws that you had to follow. We have things that you're not supposed to. We have crimes that you're not supposed to commit. Those are the differences. One has laws, the other has crimes.
This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that really does not make sense. You're gonna have to like clarify.
Oh God, I have to pull that up.
Yes.
I imagine American society is more.
Any thoughts?
What?
Thoughts on Zach's
What he said about it being too complex?
I said it was overly complex to achieve
I don't-
simplistic results.
I don't know. I feel like it had to be complex, kind of, in a way.
I'll
Like,
say.
I don't know.
Is that really a big enough theme worth talking about?
Yeah, I don't.
That's fine.
I kind of feel like if you're going to do complex, you're not going to write it in a book. Because if someone's
Yeah.
going to write about American life, why would you necessarily write about all the complexities and all the adequate rules that we have in our society?
You're right.
Yeah, just you would write about the overarching themes.
Mm-hmm.
And really the taboo as opposed to the norm. Because if you define what the taboo is, the norm's everything else.
Okay. So you guys want to talk about the ring, the invisibility ring?
I mean, that was more or less just like a device to illustrate something.
Do you think that like everyone would do bad stuff if they had the ring?
Quick poll: would you do something bad? I would.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
depends on what you mean bad.
would you do anything good?
What would you do then, Lucas? Explain what you would do with the ring, and we'll tell you if it was bad.
I don't know yet.
That's horrible.
I know.
I'm pretty sure it's
The
good.
unknown is bad.
Like you said, is there anything you could do that's good with invisibility? Just out of curiosity, like invisibility is the one superpower that's really hard to fight crime with.
To fight crime?
Think about it, like you
Fight crime with, or to like,
you have invisibility. What do you use it for? That's good.
like if we gave criminals invisibility, yeah, it'd be hard to stop crime. But
Let's say-
like
okay.
giving cops invisibility to stop crime, yeah, I mean we wouldn't have like any
Think
problems.
about like okay, invisibility is the worst superpower, pretty much.
No, it's not. It's probably one of the best superpowers.
No, flying's pretty good. Super strength's even better.
Invisibility.
Think
You
of
can-
it, it's more of a preventative.
Preventative
Prevent.
Yeah.
sense.
You don't know that like someone's next to you that's invisible watching you, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like one of the greatest powers ever.
Right, but it doesn't mean you can win a fight or anything. It just means you have stealth on your side.
Say if I was invisible, I'd have a greater chance than the person who's like trying to like find me.
Yes.
To put it into like, simplistic example. But the ring itself illustrates, besides the whole conversation about like invisibility, it's illustrating like, would we do bad if we had the opportunity? And the further extent of, justice.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the major, like, conversational pieces that, philosophers in Greece were having. It's like this idea of justice and virtue, morality, piety. That's, like, their main concern.
Yeah.
And that's why this conversation even occurred, because, Plato was pondering these things and with a Greek perspective. And it applies to us today, because, of course, we're Western. Kind of. But
What about the painter and the craftsman?
yeah, that whole
Um,
hierarchy of, like, I guess, descent from originality.
Yeah. Like, the way he described it, it was like the painter is less real than the craftsman. But does that make the painter, like, worse of a person? Because, I mean, the way he described it, it kind of sounded like it.
I
Well,
thought
yeah, because he uses the word imitator, which imitator is just negatively charged, but in a sense, that like descent from like original idea, it really isn't like a bad thing. It's just like a removal from truth.
Mm-hmm.
And apply it to the actual analogy, but if you apply it to like other things, I guess it could be perceived as evil.
Well, I mean, sometimes you need that imitation to give you further ideas to progress the original idea. So
Yes.
I don't think the painter is entirely bad.
Yeah, that's what
And
I think.
you can easily climb back up the ladder as well as climb back down. Like you can go from the painter to the painting, and then you look at the painting, you find the craftsman, he makes the craft, and you're at the idea of the craft. You can go up or down. It's like a ladder. And of course, Lucas quoting Nietzsche.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I never found that quote actually. I borrowed the book to someone. I can't find it online.
You've admitted it in the recording. That's excellent.
Yeah, I really wanted to find that though.
I was very interested in what the quote meant, like mistake. Roger, of course, kind of cut off.
Mistake wasn't actually the best word. I think it would be better if it was just like unintended.
Yeah, I want you to elaborate. I was curious about that point.
Well, the whole point of that is that,
Because where did God get the, original idea? That's
well,
kind
that's what I'm saying. Like, if for God, it would have been like unintended. Like that's the start. There's nothing before that.
Like, he didn't mean to do it, but he did it, and he was like, oh, hey, this thing can be used for this, and it's an original idea all of a sudden.
Well, I mean, it's like with the universe. Let there be light. He was just like, bam, and it's there. Like he didn't even like think of it to do it. He just did it.
So maybe instead of mistake, it's just creation, I suppose.
Yes, that makes a little bit more sense.
It's like, where did God get the original idea? Creation. And then he created the original idea. Goes to the craftsman and creates the couch, right? It was a couch.
Yes.
Because I mean, if it is related, then it's not really original. If it's not unintentionally made, it's not original.
Is it now?
No, wait. If it is intentionally made.
Well,
Yeah, if it is intentionally made, then it's not original. Sorry, that's.
Well, that would be, of course, like the craftsman. But in terms of like going from creation to like original idea, creation would be like the original idea. So it'd be original in the fact that nothing came before it. And deviation would be, original because it isn't that original idea.
But what about those people that make those things that are as seen on TV commercials, like
What?
They're completely like, I don't know. No one's ever thought of half of that stuff before. It's really stupid, but no one's really thought of that. Like that cover that goes on the outside of your car to cover your arm and doesn't get sunburned. Like, I think that's an original idea.
Yeah,
But
that is an original
There's
idea.
a cover that goes on your arm.
But that's the thing, it's not.
Why is it not?
Because it came from an inspiration of shade and the cover, and they just apply it somewhere.
Yeah, the original idea.
And then that came from somewhere else. Like,
God.
there's a line you can follow.
Yeah, and that's God.
I don't believe that there's any distinction between something that's an imitation of reality of anything that's related to morality. There's nothing moral about something that is a depiction of something else. It's not less real than the real thing.
It's real though.
Well, you're right,
Painting
but
of
that
a
doesn't
couch
make it
isn't a
morally
couch.
less, though.
It's more what?
It doesn't make it morally less different than it, though.
It does though. It's an
Why?
imitation. Because it's not a couch. You can't sit on the painting of the
Who
couch.
gives a fuck?
Why are you bringing in morality in
But
something of,
the
of
logic is,
real?
and the same thing with Socrates is, we don't need the what do they call them, the artists or the what are the people who write poems? What are those people called really fast? I forget.
poets.
Poets. There you go. You can only think of the poems, not the actual people who made them. But he says we don't need those because they make imitations. I don't understand why that matters.
Yes, that's what I meant earlier when I said that. It sounds like he was kind of shitting on painters because, like, they weren't the truth. That's what made me say that.
Who cares?
It's an analogy. It makes very perfect sense. I mean, if you think about it in a tactical, like tangible way, what is the point of a painting of a couch if you can't sit on it?
To entertain me. Okay? That's what it is.
Aesthetics.
Okay?
Aesthetics.
You know, the Star Wars movie, it's a depiction of something that isn't real, but guess what? It's fucking entertaining.
But is that necessary?
Do you want a bunch of people pissed off and bored?
No, I want a bunch of people working in the fields,
This is why Netflix
creating just enough stuff, and
This
we
is why
all do the
Netflix
same
stopped
stuff.
any kind of like riots. Because why would you riot if you could go watch Netflix? Think about it.
I mean, you have to remember this book and a lot of stuff from this era. It's all lofty, idealistic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like that one part where he said, "What's the purpose of a philosopher?" What did he said he had a purpose because he was like king. That's useless.
Now, I do think philosophers are useless to a society because why? Why?
You, Rozier, you're useless.
Well, no.
We're gonna get a good grade on this.
Oh yeah,
I know.
I might have to we'll have to re-record it.
No, but
Someone say you're lying.
But I mean, think about it from the frame of the argument. Philosophers are useless to this republic. Does anybody know why?
I put him as a king though. I mean, he said philosopher kings, but wouldn't the king become more important than the philosopher part? I don't understand why they have to be philosophers. Or they have to seek knowledge.
Because it's not only to implement law, it's also to know why.
Why? I mean, I don't care. As long as he implements a law that works.
No, but that's the thing, you have to know why it works. And why it's good to work.
I don't think you have to know why it works. I think it just has to work.
Okay, but why is it working?
Oh, so your logic is you have to know why to make better laws. And I can
Yeah.
that, but I don't think you have to know why for any other reason besides that.
Well, I mean, if you care
Yeah,
for the efficiency of your state, then you have to. For
And
the
if you
quality.
don't know why the law is in place, then how is it good? How is it like a law you should uphold?
I mean, like taxes or speed limits. I mean, yeah, you can implement them and you're doing it, but are they all as much necessary as they currently are, kind of thing?
It's like, why do we have a speed limit? If you didn't know, then would you enforce it? Probably not. Would anybody believe you when you tried to get it enforced? No. We have speed limits to prevent car accidents. That's why it's the right law. You have to know that. You can't just
That's actually not the reason, but
tit for tat. Anyways,
you want to know why there's speed limits?
enlighten me.
This is actually to reduce I call it gas consumption.
Really?
Yep.
Bullshit.
I
There's
thought it
that
was for
highway in
officers to make money.
Well,
then why not
now
get pulled over?
that's what that become. I mean, because of police quotas, but I mean, initially in America, that's why speed limits have been put where they are.
Isn't there that highway in I think Germany and like there's no speed limit
Yep. In
to
a
all
lot
of
of European
that,
countries, the speed limit is a lot higher than in America.
and they have less car accidents than us.
Hmm.
From what
That's my
I've
dream.
heard.
That's interesting. How does it relate to Republic?
Well, it has to do with the law thing. I mean, of efficiency,
Unnecessary
knowing why.
laws, maybe.
Yeah. If you had a philosopher king, you would realize and see that.
Right.
Well, now under with what Zach wants with just having kings, you see how inefficient and how bad the quality of the law implementation is in America. Because really, there's not enough thought put into the laws.
I have a quick question. Do you guys even remember if Socrates ever said his city should grow? I don't think he did. I thought he said his city should be self-contained. Like, it shouldn't expand.
Well, I know what you're talking about. When he says the city needs to grow, he's talking about incorporating more like particular types of people.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so, okay, as we all know, it gets really harder to govern the larger things are.
Yes.
That's why the American bureaucracy is a nightmare to get through. But he has one city, okay? The city fairly easier to run compared to a country, but he never mentioned about expanding it. Am I right? Like he never mentioned like going to. I don't remember that. Like let's have two cities next to each other that will trade.
Well, yeah, it's a utopic society, and with the utopic mindset, there's no need to expand. You have just enough, and you're fine.
What do you do with all the? Oh, I guess his logic is because it's a utopia and because we control the number of kids, there won't be more kids than there is their roles to fit. So it won't be a population issue. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I felt 1984 was better.
1984 was better.
As a discussion.
That is true. It was better.
Well, you have to think 1984 was written 1950s. This was written in like what about a few thousand years ago. So obviously there's a disconnect with us between the text and how it relates to today as opposed to 1984, which is, talking about real themes that are occurring in that, Roser's generation and the generation before had to deal with,
Okay, so unless you guys want to talk about the cave, I want to jump straight to the ending.
Now, the cave is extremely important and is pretty timeless because a lot of philosophers had, the cave is like a huge philosophical device. As a historian, I've heard it like hundreds of times.
You're right, but I mean, so does anyone have anything particularly discussion based that they want to talk about the cave?
Yes.
Okay, then shoot.
In my notes, I wrote.
Bunny?
Okay, in class, what?
I said, did you write bunny?
Oh, I wrote bunny.
Bunny!
But that's not what I'm talking about.
You sure?
The way he described the cave and how you go out of the cave into like the outside and it's really, really bright and you can't open your eyes all the way and it hurts.
Right.
I thought it kind of symbolized how like the truth hurts. Maybe.
Yeah. Because if you think about the analogy, obviously the light's the sun. It's like
aliens
hurts, and really it hurts because it's like it's blunt. There's no like it's the truth.
Uh-huh.
It's not a soft blow, so to say. If you like compare it to a sword.
Yes.
It's just blunt. Here's the truth. It's blinding. It hurts.
His logic is that there is a definitive between being in the cave and being outside, and that it's easy to see. It's not as easy because you can still be deceived by going down the wrong path. And my logic is, if you can't tell what is the outside, the true outside, then how do you know if you're in the cave or not? Like, are we in the cave currently? Are we all, looking at a bunny in our society?
Skepe in the cave.
Sorry, what?
How Skepe's in the cave.
I don't understand that insult. So
Yeah.
I was just kidding. It's a joke.
the reason we're insulting only Hellskepe though.
It's a joke. I'm not being serious. Damn.
But
I'm
like,
not shitty.
but I get your joke. Why don't you? Why did
You get the joke, so you think there is something behind it.
I want to say that the whole concept of the cave is very kind of binary. When actually, and like it's either you're in or you're not. When I want to say in reality, it's probably a more of a succession of caves.
You're actually. I agree with that. So my logic is, if you can't tell when you're in the cave, then does the analogy mean anything if you can't prove that you've ever been outside or what the outside is?
Well, there's not really in the cave and outside the cave. I mean, if you look at like the drawing, did anybody draw the drawing that he put on the board?
Yes, we drew the cave.
There's a gradual process of going deeper and getting to the edge or the opening.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. I mean, you go from one to the next. I mean, in steps.
So you think it's a series of caves?
I don't want to say in reality.
Okay, let's answer this question: are we out or in the cave?
We're probably.
In my mind, I think we're out. I think North Korea people, the people who are isolated, who have a dictatorship, who are
they're obviously in the cave.
They might be in the cave, but are we in the cave as we speak? Can we know?
I feel like every person is at least somewhat in a cave. They might not be in the deepest part of the cave, but we're somewhat.
Exactly. I agree with that.
I, for example, don't really. I hold America more accountable to assassinations than I do Russia, for example. Even though I do know.
And you're very much inside the cave, then, Zach.
Or at least assassination of our own citizens.
You're very much in the cave, then.
Bush did 9/11.
Yeah, I can hold up Bush.
Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams.
Hold up the jet fuel doesn't burn at whatever the fuck degrees.
Yeah.
God, this 9/11 was horrible, wasn't it? That's all I saw. Anyways, though, back to the discussion. It's pretty good.
Oh, great discussion.
But you think, like, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself inside the cave, outside the cave, gradually getting towards the edge of the cave, into the cave?
Ignorance, right? You don't know that you're outside, right? But the thing about ignorance is, you can be so ignorant that you don't know what you don't know. Like,
I would also say naivety too.
Yeah,
so always.
So unless you actually figure out what you're missing, there's no way to tell if you're in the cave or not.
That's why you get thrown out of the cave.
Right. So my question is, how on earth are you ever supposed to know if you're in the cave?
I don't think if you've been outside, and if you haven't been outside, then you don't know.
Exactly, you don't know.
Because you have nothing to compare it to.
Right. Because remember, they were born and chained to that wall. That's all they know. It's more of just like the unintentional epiphany, discovering like that you're in a cave and being thrown to the truth, which is illustrated in the book. Which what book is that in? I can find
Oh Lord!
What book is this? What are you talking about? I mean,
like what book in the?
Or is it 8? Is it 6 or 8? It's like 6 to 8 maybe.
with the cave.
Yeah.
The cave is in 7.
Oh, there we go. See, I was right. 6 to 8 somewhere.
Which he talks about, I always equivalent it to like an epiphany of something being thrown out of the cave. And then in the book, which I can't find the quote, he returns back into the cave and chains himself back up. And in Roger's analogy's case, the picture of the bunny, right? You saw the bunny outside the cave. It's back in there.
My logic is it's identical to The Matrix. Remember that movie where the guy, after escaping the Matrix, decided he wanted to go back to the Matrix? Exactly like that.
Yeah,
but
that's based on the cave.
So, cool question. Do you have a moral responsibility to escape the cave?
No, you don't.
To escape or to pull the others out?
First, do you have one to escape yourself? Let's answer that. Let's say you know that there is an outside, but you don't know anything about it. All you know is that this is not the only world. Are you responsible to escape?
Wait, I don't understand why you would go back in the cave in the first place.
Well, that's I understand that. That's because
It's safe.
yeah, and it's change is scary. Yeah, but this is my question: do you have the moral responsibility to escape the cave?
No.
Do you have a moral responsibility to help others escape once you yourself have?
No.
No.
Okay.
Can't really apply morality to like enlightenment. Like, is it really my responsibility, Zach, if you're chained into the cave to tell you that the image that you've seen throughout
No,
your
that's what
entire
I'm
life
asking.
is funny?
I mind because this is going to be brought up. I bet in 20 years when like VR technology comes out, people be like, people are not leaving their houses.
The what technology?
You know, virtual reality.
Oh.
You know, stuff like that. Oculus Rift. You know,
Yeah.
that comes out. People are gonna. I bet someone's gonna die in their room without taking it off.
You?
Yes. If once I'm have enough money to buy one.
Real quick, Zach, you mentioned the Matrix, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The Matrix, one of the major like philosophical backdrops was the cave, the allegory of
Well,
the cave.
and Jesus, and a lot of other things. Honestly, the
The
Matrix.
important part, which is relevant to our discussion, is the allegory of the cave in terms of the Matrix.
Right, but if a bunch of people want to go back to the cave, is that bad?
No, it's understandable.
Okay.
It's safe because you were chained as that's what you knew. There's comfort in going back to what you know and what's like comfortable.
How do the people in the cave eat?
Irrelevant.
You're thinking about it too much.
Yeah, that's
Curiosity. How would they eat? I mean, think about it. Like someone would have to feed them.
Does it matter?
Yeah, does it matter to the discussion?
Yes.
They have IVs.
They have tubes, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like the Matrix.
made out of like goat intestines, since this is in like the 4th century BCE.
Okay, so I want to discuss the ending, which I thought was garbage. So the whole build-up, whole freaking book, was explanation for why it's good to be good and bad to be bad. And his logic at the very end is the soul is eternal for a very stupid reason, and it was because he couldn't think of any ailments to the soul that destroys it. So the soul must be eternal. And because the soul is eternal, there must be an afterlife. And because one random fucker decided that I saw heaven, it must be true. And that is why it's good to be good and bad to be bad. That is the entirety of his logic.
Can we talk about the cave still? I want to go back into the cave.
Yeah, I didn't understand why at the end he gave such a weak excuse.
Well, Zach, you're gonna have to explain it.
So his logic was, it boiled down to, they were naming things for like eyes have something that melts the eye. I don't remember what it was called. It was a Greek word. Then there's ailments for everything that destroys it. Rust for metal, something for eyes.
Hysteria for women.
Really? Is that what he used? I don't think he used that. But that's really racist. Not really sexist.
Zach, if you're gonna brand me, give me the letter. Jeez.
But
it's like, imagine if the Scarlet Letter was like the wrong fucking letter.
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be pretty bad.
Yeah, but so his thing was, what is an ailment for the soul? And they were talking about like vices, like greed and lust and so forth.
Being a vegetable's a vice to the soul.
But because they couldn't think of one that would destroy the soul, his next step was the soul must be eternal. That was his steps in logic, and it was hilarious because that one guy. If you read the book, he keeps talking about the questions. One guy will question Socrates, and Socrates will say something, and the next guy will say, "Yes, you've explained it to me perfectly.
You're talking about Glaucon.
You've convinced me." That's exactly
what happened.
Absolutely,
I do. I suppose so.
He's like, Socrates like, so the soul must be eternal, and the guy's like, "Yes, it must be."
Yeah,
What?
I hate Glaucon.
Oh yeah.
I understand now, like, in psychology, we talked about, like, this Socratic method of, like, asking questions to everything and,
Right.
like, never giving an answer and just asking more questions. Like, that's what, like, the therapists do and stuff.
Right. And that's Socrates. Socrates, you know,
Yeah.
even though we don't have anything
The
written.
first therapist.
Right. He did that all the time. It either piss him off or make the person want to sleep with him, which is hilarious. Because Socrates is renowned for being one hideous motherfucker. Like most of any sort of writing, speaking of him, is like, brilliant but hideous. Hideous fucker.
I'm gonna look at the picture. Yeah.
Fair unknown.
I didn't get his reasoning because the soul, there is an element that destroys the soul entirely. How would you know? Like, for example, first off, how would you know if it destroyed the soul entirely? That's never brought up. That's never ever answered. So his next step is it must be eternal. Okay, fine, whatever. Then he says, then he gives him a story about the one dude who died
Who's
back
the
10 days later.
Who's the one dude?
Oh god, I have his name written down. Let me.
Is it E-R?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
He died, came back 10 days later, and was like, I saw heaven. Yay!
Sounds like Jesus.
And you think that Socrates, a person who
Yes.
fucking answers everything with a question, would have questioned that story. But no, not at all. Let's accept it. So, so soul's eternal. There is a heaven, and this is why it's good to be good, and this is why there's judgment. That's the whole thing, the whole encompass of the book.
I kind of see what you're saying with how he was so easy to believe that. I mean, is that what you're saying? Like, he believed it without questioning it enough?
Like, okay, so if, let's say, he didn't immediately accept it, okay? What would justify good being good and bad being bad? Can we even think of one example?
No. I can't.
I think that's interesting. If you think about that, that maybe religion was the only thing back then that stopped, kings from just like being horrible monsters, even though they were still most of the time. But
I think people just want something to believe in. I don't
Yeah.
think they're made, like, I don't know.
I'm an atheist, so I strongly disagree with the ending in so many ways.
I went to go get Haagen-Dazs, but
You know,
you said something about like morality being equated to religion. Can you re-explain that?
no, I said that's the real. I guess the point is, religion was morality back then. Okay, and even it still might be today, because
You're talking about like Hellenistic paganism.
because they couldn't answer the question, why is it good to be good and bad to be bad? Because there is no answer to that question. That the only way they could ever, for example, not stab each other whenever they felt like they could, was because they believed that there was a hell and a heaven.
Zach, have you studied Hellenistic paganism?
No, have not. But you're the historian, so enlighten me.
Well, I hate to tell you, but that's a Judeo-Christian mind frame. Like, religion to them was definitely not in terms of like, I'm gonna go to hell if I'm bad. Religion to them is more of like, if I don't give him this baby calf, I'm going to be like turned into a spider. Like, there was morality, but it wasn't like enforced by like, I'm gonna go to hell. There really wasn't like this concept of hell. I mean, there was like unpleasant afterlife, but it wasn't hell.
So you're okay. So that's fine. I'll accept your thing. But then why did Socrates bring up what is amount to hell and heaven? What did he call it? The land that where there's eternal pleasure, and then there's the one under the ground where people are punished.
That would be Elysium and Tartarus.
That is identical to heaven and hell.
Somewhat.
I don't
But not really, like, you can't really frame it as to, like, this punishment that they feared. People in antiquity were very much about, like, the world and, like, that life, you know? They weren't really very focused on afterlife.
So they didn't do bad things because they were feared that they would be punished supernaturally in the current life.
They were afraid of being punished in their lifetime.
Okay, I mean that's still their morality is still determined by spirituality then in that case.
And law.
Yeah, I mean, but law is. I'm trying to the main because you have people who can control the law. You have kings who can be evil and get away with it. So this is what stops the king from being evil?
His own restraint, really.
My logic is what stops the king from being evil is not religion, but the fear that if you are evil to someone, that they're gonna rise up and be just as evil or 100 times worse to you. Like do unto others as you want to be undoing yourself. That's my logic.
Anybody else have any comments? Alexis?
I feel like that wouldn't be his reason for not, like, taxing the people or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what his reason would not be for doing that, but I feel like that's not a good enough reason not to.
Taxing the citizens?
Yeah, like, or just doing bad things to the citizens.
That's kind of funny that the first thing of bad you think of is taxes.
Yeah, that's...
We're in
I'm
America.
not a bad person, so I don't think of bad things, so...
But go on.
Wait, who?
Yeah, so so what do you think is the reason why he doesn't?
I feel like he might be afraid to anger the gods.
But there you go. This is if the only thing that we act good for is because we're afraid of being punished, then why does it matter?
Because we're still, like, we don't want to be punished, even if it's by the gods, the citizens, whatever it may be. I mean, do you want to be punished? Like, do you want to get a bad grade? Or
mine's grounded in reality. You know, being stabbed because I punched some dude in the face who I felt like I should be evil to that day is pretty firm. You know, believing that I'm going to go to hell afterwards with no evidence for it is fake.
But I feel like they believed in the gods just as much as you believe that there will be, you'll get stabbed because you punched some guy. I feel like they believed in the gods just as much as you believe in that.
What are we trying to go with this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucas, go. You're on the spot.
Do you want to talk about his idea of imagination and probably the line, kind of?
The floor is yours. What do you think?
There's a point where he talks about how imagination is the lowest of qualities in a person, since what you come up with is all derived from what already exists, which relates back to the artist, the painter.
Yeah, the original idea.
Yeah. About that, I kind of agree with him, because truly you can't imagine what doesn't already exist. But at the same time, you can imagine other possibilities that definitely cannot exist.
I agree with that. Because when you
think
imagine like a new invention, you create that idea based on other things.
Well, I'm saying think about an invention that cannot happen, and that would be kind of new. But I'm not sure.
Can you even think of? Is there a line where you can't think of any more original thoughts anymore? Is there a point for that, where everything's already been thought of?
possibly.
You mean like processed, like after the painter, or before God?
Well, I mean, like, let's say we all try coming up with our own inventions. Couldn't every single one of them be strike down and saying, "Oh, that's just an amalgamation of this thing and this thing"? apply differently.
Definitely.
Yeah, so is there anything that isn't one of those that can even be thought of nowadays?
Can you repeat the question?
I think you eventually run out of originality. That's my idea.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you think about originality, should be the end of it.
Yeah, and
What's
because
beyond originality, the creation of it.
and because originality is finite, then there shouldn't be any punishment or stigma to unoriginality. That's my opinion.
I disagree.
What do you agree with? What are you trying to say?
I mean, there should be stigma against unoriginality. You should always strive for like deeper truth. Even though, yeah, it is a finite line, but you can come to that line from different angles. It's always good to like think and like try to create from different angles and ideas to get to like something useful.
Actually, let me say this. Okay, so there's a thing that you might already know about called the Library of Babel, right? Who knows about that? You don't? Okay, it's great. I'm going to link it in the Skype chat. So what they did was they took a bunch of math and they made it so they made every single possible 3,000 word statement. Every single one. Everything we currently said, everything we will say, everything we could say is already in that program. All you got to do is find it. It's already written down. That proves that because the English language itself is finite, there can only be a limited number of things said. So why would you ever bother? Like, think about it. It's like if you had 1 million people write a report on the same movie, you're eventually going to get a lot of crossover.
You think the English language is finite?
Yes, I can prove it's finite. By that, go to that thing. Look at it. It has everything. I could find out what I just said to you in there.
Okay, if you remove time and you just take one moment, sure. But the moment that we're developing and we're borrowing words from other languages, creating new words, it's growing.
Still finite.
Yeah, in each moment.
And it's infinite in terms of like, there's always new words, new concepts.
But these are new letters, is my saying.
Well, no. Unless you want to come up with a new sound. Or incorporate sounds from different languages.
My logic is
languages. I mean,
you're right, but this is a small sliver of what it could be. Imagine this in like 50 years when they're like, we've done it with, I don't know, 10,000 characters. Every book's already here, okay? Every sound's already here. Like, they already proved that sound is finite as well. You know, who's the guy who does all those videos on YouTube? The smart guy who, like, what's that called? I'm going to find it. Finite sounds.
Wait, talk about green?
Oh, no, Vsauce. There you go. Vsauce.
Oh, that guy.
Everything is finite, in my opinion. There you go.
the universe is finite.
There you go. Will we ever run out of new music? There you go.
Michael here. iTunes.
I've thought about that a lot.
Yeah, so there's only so many things you can say, only so many things you can write, only so many things that you can hear or say. And I bet, because think about it, we've been on, what, how old is the human race?
Not that old.
Not that old, okay. Imagine us in, I don't know, 1,000 years. Okay? It becomes significantly harder and harder to be original.
Is the universe finite, Zach?
What do you mean by finite? Like space-wise? Or like
Yeah.
the universe?
Is it expanding or is it already contained?
Well, it's expanding, but that doesn't mean it's not finite. Like, I mean, just because it's expanding doesn't mean it's infinite.
Can you tell me why?
Can you explain to me why? Because it's expanding at a rate that could stop.
Could it?
It's infinite. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's infinite. There's always like.
Strong.
Yeah, I understand your concept. I mean, if you like. Yes, to a certain extent, there is finite.
There you go. And you can also type
At this moment, though, there's only so many like things that can happen.
You're
Can
right.
we not go in on this because it's all based on speculation?
Exactly. It's
Can we
very-
go on something concrete?
I mean, like, there's even so many strands of DNA that can exist for a person. Like, I mean, eventually everything will be repeated.
So you think at some point you're gonna be reborn?
No, I don't, because
I'm not saying you as your thought, but I'm saying the same DNA of you will pop up again.
maybe. That's if Earth lives long
Maybe.
enough. That's if we don't, wipe ourselves out.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean it's infinite. It's still, everything is finite.
How so?
I just, what makes you think it's infinite though?
I asked you how so.
Better question. Name something infinite in nature. Like anything that's in reality that is actually infinite. There's only so many grains of sand, only so many atoms in the world. Name something that's infinite.
The universe.
That's not infinite either.
As far as we know, in this moment, it is.
But my logic is there's basically no cases of infinity existing naturally. Ever. None.
It might have
But-
a concept of infinity.
Imagine something infinite. Boom, you
That's
got
not,
it.
That's not natural though. That's just an idea. Like I can imagine things that don't exist, but there's no occurring case of infinity.
Numbers go to infinity, bro.
Our idea's not real.
That's not real.
Electric impulses in your brain.
Yeah, but the idea that you have right now. Don't think of an elephant.
Okay,
No,
it's not real. Not a real elephant. I can imagine.
What did you just think of?
I can think about it, okay. I can imagine going from the Earth to the Sun in a second. Light can't do that in a second.
Can you, but can you actually imagine doing that?
Oh my! It's not real. What makes you think it's even real? Just
No, literally, take the time. Take that 1 second to imagine doing that.
I just did. I did it again.
That's less than a second.
Okay, now I did it.
Okay.
Does that please you?
That journey in your head was not real?
Was not real.
Why not?
What makes you think it's real?
Because I
Makes
defined
sense.
that's real. It's part of the spectrum of reality.
What? No. Just I strongly disagree with you there.
But I just defined it.
No, who cares if you defined it?
I do.
That's-
I do a lot.
Nor does it matter how much you care about it.
I mean, it's down to the individual. It's down to me.
Well, it's down to you until something from reality affects you. Then it's not down to you anymore.
I think, therefore I am. That's what that quote means, right?
Isn't that more about sentience and less about?
I mean, you can take it to the perspective that it's like I'm the only thing that's important. I think, therefore I am.
No, I'm pretty sure it's about sentience and self-awareness.
How so?
Is that not the very quote? Let me pull it up.
Yeah, pull it up.
There you go. What is the fuck is it? That's a long. That does not actually explain what the phrase means. It's just a different. Okay, there we go. We cannot doubt of our existence while we doubt. What does that mean? There's the Wikipedia page, first paragraph.
What does it mean, Zach?
I don't know, but you can't prove me wrong by simply saying that phrase that you yourself don't know.
Cognito ergo sum.
I'm glad you know Latin.
Gracias, Sago. Anyways.
But really, everything's finite, and this is why Roser shouldn't get mad at us if we copy or paste something. That's the real reason I'm saying all this, because plagiarism should be accepted in American schools. There you go.
But is that original?
It doesn't matter if it's original.
But is it original thought then if you only copy and paste?
Why does it matter if it... Okay, so nowadays, you can still have original thoughts. But I'm saying, 1,000 years from now, pretty hard.
I think it'd have to be more than even 1,000 years for what you're talking about to even happen. Like, it would be long, like, way in the future.
But you agree that it could happen.
A very long time from now, yes. Maybe.
I think it's infinite possibilities. Because time doesn't have an end.
No,
That is right.
no.
No?
Time. Nope.
What? Oh, time's a human perception.
No.
Right? Lucas?
I want to hear Lucas explain this. Lucas, explain. I might be on your side.
Explain what of time.
If time's infinite.
I mean, think about it. It's a line that doesn't really have like a...
Well, that's the thing. Your concept of a line, that's where it's kind of off. You have to think of it with space,
Okay, elaborate.
and then
Like,
space, while infinite, is contained. You have to
infinite
think of,
is contained.
huh?
Infinite, you said infinite is contained.
Yeah, infinity contained.
Does that make it infinity anymore?
No, but for you it is.
Or
Explain.
yeah.
Okay, like think of the whole concept of you being on the area of a sphere.
Oh, that's interesting. That you can walk in any direction, you still end up there, and it's infinite.
Yes.
Oh, I see that now. That is
Okay.
interesting.
Now apply that to also time.
What?
I understand it. I understand what Lucas is saying. Is because okay, so you have two types of infinity. You have countable infinities and uncountable infinities. Okay, countable is single digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can keep counting up. Uncountable is, for example, like the distance between 1 and 2. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the smallest increment between 1 and 2? You can think of that. What comes after 1? Is it 1.01 or is it 1.000001 or is it 1.010,001?
It's
Doesn't
infinite.
matter.
Right?
Because you can't think of how many zeros it is because it gets increasingly smaller. And a circle behaves just like that.
So
Because
your point, Zach, of everything's finite, does it still stand?
that is interesting. I don't think it matters though in my case. In my case of that anything
Yeah.
that actually matters to humans is finite.
How?
Because why would it matter to you if time is infinite?
It
Or
does.
if the increments between a circle is infinite, why would that matter to a person?
Why do we have people that do calculus?
What is the actual real world application of calculus?
Lucas, you're a science major. Go for it.
Speed, rates, like that's the best way to say the use of it. Rates.
Rapes? Okay.
Rates.
Rapes. All right. Excellent.
The rate of rapes, yes.
There we go. Now we're tying it back together.
Well, we have 2 minutes left, so you guys want to say anything the last minute?
You always naturally cut off these conversations, Zach.
That this is a terrible conversation.
It is terrible.
I would highly recommend we do this again.
You want to do it again? I'm cool.
Yeah, I'd say when we get done with On Liberty, that one's gonna be even worse.
No.
Yeah, I think that
I know
actually
about-
ends next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, we can do this again because all of us don't have to go anywhere, right?
I have to
I
go
mean-
somewhere right now.
Right now? What time do you get back?
Like 6 maybe.
Yeah, I can't do it then.
But-
I think
we-
we're good.
Do we have to upload this? Oh,
We
Rose.
don't have to. I mean, I would suggest like a few more minutes because we paused inordinately several times.
You want awkward silence for the next 2 minutes? So
No,
let's
I'm saying we need to talk more because we had inordinate silence.
Okay.
Like 5 to 10 minutes over.
Yeah,
All right.
that's why you should never try to kill a conversation.
Look, honestly, like if it's quality over quantity, I might just say stop because like just saying more isn't gonna improve what we've already said, which really I think it was terrible.
Yeah, I question our quality as well.
I have a bunch of more notes I could read off. That'll bring up subjects.
I mean, but is it like a point, like something that interests you that you actually believe? That's just,
I have a few, yeah.
go for it.
I wrote this in my notes. It says, if you're stuck in contradiction of thoughts, stop and back up. And I don't think that's from the book. I think that's what we talked about in class. But
There's a point in the second book where he gets to like this dead end, and he backs.
actually, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But
Which
I
we
feel
should
like
have done in this conversation several times. Now that I think about it,
if what?
we should have done this in the conversation back up when we reached, logical ends. Thank you, Zach.
But I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And also I wrote down the philosopher's nature because let's see, we wrote down philosopher's nature and like truthfulness, soul, pleasure, not petty, not cowardly. I was wondering, like, do you think there would be any like negative, any bad qualities about a philosopher, like the way he was described? Like, do you think that was biased when they were like naming all those things, or?
That they put learning ahead of helping their fellow man. That's something I think of. Maybe. But that's more like mad scientist level stupid. Like, what? Okay, listen to that. What would be a consequence of having a philosopher as a king?
What?
I answered that.
Absolutely, I do. I suppose so. We do. Hashtag Glaucon quotes. You are a very good man, Socrates. Yes, by Zeus, I certainly will say all of that.
Let me stop recording.
Are we at 60?
We're at 62.
63 on my page.
You're right, 63. That's interesting.
Yes.
No, we're 63 in the chat, but we recorded for 62.
I guess we can stop it if we have nothing less left to
Stop
discuss.
recording now.